For younger fans, it's easy to look at today's NBA and assume that players like the Greek Freak are completely unique. A player who dominates with size, length, and creativity around the basket, yet maintains a level of unselfishness that always keeps his teammates involved. But what if I told you, we've seen this before? Let's do a quick blind comparison. In almost equal games played, one player averaged 28.8 points, 11.7 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 1.1 steals, and 1.2 blocks per game, all while shooting over 55% from the field. The other, nearly the exact same points per game as player A, 12 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 2.4 steals, and 2 blocks per game on 50% from the field in his own right. On paper, these two players are nearly identical, but these players not only never played against each other, but aren't even from the same era of time at all. The first player is Giannis from 2018 to 2023. The second, the first 5 ABA seasons of the iconic Dr. J, Julius Erving. That's right, before Giannis, before LeBron, and before even Michael Jordan, there was Dr. J, a 6'7" forward with a 7-foot-long wingspan, massive hands, and a pioneer of elite athleticism. The Doctor was a player who changed the game before it was ready for him, and the skills he would showcase in his legendary career would have a ripple effect on the game long after his time on the court was over. These are the skills of Julius Erving, explained. The American Basketball Association was known for its flashy style, an electric pace, and, of course, spectacular slam dunks. It was a league built on excitement and innovation, and no one embodied that spirit more than a young Julius Erving, who quickly became the poster boy for the only professional league that ever came close to rivaling the NBA. His first true breakout year came in the 1973-74 season. He took the league by storm, leading the ABA for the second consecutive year in scoring, with an impressive 27.4 points per game. He also grabbed 10.7 rebounds, dished out 5.4 assists, and claimed his first league MVP award, leading his Nets to a league-high 55 wins in the regular season. But Erving wasn't slowed down in the playoffs. He carried the New York Nets all the way to their first ever ABA championship victory. When the lights were brightest, Dr. J only got better. In the 1976 ABA Finals, he stuffed the stat sheet, dropping an insane 37.7 points, 14.2 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game, earning playoff MVP honors and leading the New York Nets to their second ABA title. But here's the craziest part. Most people never even saw it happen. The ABA struggled financially and national TV coverage was scarce. But despite this, Julius Erving was still considered the most exciting basketball player on the planet. Much of his legend spread through word of mouth, fueled by the incredible stories of his feats on the court. The few lucky enough to witness him play in person could not stop talking about him. But it wasn't just about his gaudy stats on paper. Dr. J was doing things on the court that had simply never been seen before. He was redefining the game, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with his athleticism and creativity. Physically, Julius Erving had the perfect build for a dominant wing player. At 6 feet 7 inches with a reported 7-foot wingspan, his frame would become the standard build for future generations of wings in the league. But what will never be considered the standard were his exceptionally large hands, which were once measured at 9.5 inches long by 11.75 inches wide. This is similar to the freakish hand sizes of other NBA legends like Michael Jordan and Kawhi Leonard. And these massive mitts gave Dr. J a unique control of the basketball that made him stand out, especially in the 1970s. These natural gifts helped Erving develop his most well-known skill, dunking. During halftime of the 1976 ABA All-Star Game, the fledgling league pioneered an event that the NBA still carries on to this day, the Slam Dunk Contest. There, Erving cemented his legendary status, defeating Hall of Famers Artis Gilmore, George Gervin, and David Thompson for the inaugural title. He possessed insane leaping ability and used it to become one of the first players to ever dunk from the free throw line. Michael Jordan may have made it iconic years later, but make no mistake, the Doctor was the inspiration. He wouldn't just do this in contests, as Dr. J would often be daring enough to attack the rim from further out in games as well, surprising his opponents and outlasting them in the air for beautiful slams. His length, athleticism, and grip enabled him to elevate and control the basketball high in the air, even out of the reach of some of the greatest rim protectors in the game. A famous example of this was when he finally made his move to the NBA for the 76-77 season and led his Philadelphia 76ers to the finals in his very first year. If you just glance at Irving's first NBA season stats and compare them to his final year in the ABA, you might think the transition to the big leagues slowed him down and possibly even intimidated him. But that was far from the case. Philadelphia was stacked. A powerhouse roster filled with talent, much of it coming over from the ABA. So, for most of the season, Doc played the role of a team player, letting his teammates shine. He wasn't trying to dominate every possession, he was biding his time. But with the Sixers' backs against the wall in Game 4 of the 1977 NBA Finals, Irving knew his team needed a spark. And when he got his chance, he delivered one of the most devastating dunks in basketball history. A full-speed drive to the rim, a launch from outside the paint, and standing in his way, a prime Bill Walton, the reigning MVP and one of the game's greatest defenders. But none of it mattered. The Doctor rose up, cocked the ball back, and threw it down over Walton with authority, a moment so legendary and iconic that it's still replayed nearly 50 years later. Dunking on large centers was a very frequent occurrence for the Doctor, as he was relentless in his attacks on the rim. He wasn't afraid to take on anyone, regardless of their size or reputation. He was a freak in transition. He had a solid handle on the ball and could execute behind-the-back dribbles at full speed, a skill that was uncommon for players of his size at the time. It was normal for him to secure the rebound and take the basketball coast to coast with his gazelle-like strides, ultimately finishing the play with a thunderous slam or slick layup. He was the definition of a one-man fast break, more than capable of creating something out of any transition situation. The Doctor would make any full-size basketball look like a child's toy, palming it with ease, swinging it around like it was weightless. And with his incredible grip strength, he could sell some of the most devastating ball fakes the game had ever seen. This ability to easily manipulate the ball, combined with his incredible body control, also allowed him to score around the basket from angles that didn't even seem possible. His layup package was arguably the most unique of all time for these reasons. He had a graceful finger roll that seemed to float in slow motion. Much like Michael Jordan after him, Doc could hang in the air longer than defenders, adjusting mid-flight to finish with either hand. And he wasn't just flashy, he was fundamentally sound, using textbook spin off the glass to make sure his shots went in. His ability to twist, spin, and contort his body in midair was truly ahead of its time. A perfect example of this was his iconic reverse layup versus the Lakers in Game 4 of the 1980 NBA Finals. In midair, he palmed the ball in one hand, extended fully under the backboard, and somehow spun it off the glass for one of the most beautiful baskets in league history. That's a move that very few players in history could even attempt, let alone pull off. But the Doctor would make this weapon an important part of his offensive arsenal. Irving's athleticism wasn't just for his offense, it translated into dominance on the defensive end as well. The same physical advantages that made him a spectacular dunker also made him a formidable shot blocker and rebounder. He elevated with incredible speed and power, disrupting shots and controlling the boards with authority. He was a force on the glass, averaging an astonishing 15.7 rebounds per game in his rookie season in the ABA. In fact, Dr. J would average over 10 rebounds per game in all 5 of his ABA seasons. Irving is also considered one of the greatest shot-blocking small forwards of all time. His instincts, leaping ability, and quickness were truly elite. He could time his jumps and use his length to swat away shots with ease. He averaged as many as 2.4 blocks per game in 1974, which would land him in the top 5 all-time for blocks per game by a small forward, but it wasn't in the NBA. Doc's defensive skills didn't stop there. He was also an amazing pickpocket. His huge hands and incredible reach made him a nightmare for opposing ball handlers. He could disrupt passing lanes, reach in for steals, and make life miserable for anyone trying to dribble against him. If you combine his career ABA and NBA numbers, Irving averaged 2 steals and 1.7 blocks per game, which is a level of defensive impact that no other player has ever matched for their entire career. Even if you look at his NBA-only averages of 1.8 steals and 1.5 blocks per game, it's still a feat that no one else in league history has accomplished over the course of their career. This defensive consistency is something that very few mention when discussing Irving's skills, but Irving could be in the discussion for one of the best defensive players, statistically, of all time. Julius Irving wasn't just ahead of his time, he was the future before anyone knew it. He was a pioneer and a trendsetter, a player who was largely responsible for the high-flying, athletic style of play on offense and defense that now defines the modern NBA. His mix of size, skill, and athleticism was something that changed the basketball world forever. So when you watch the players of today flying through the air, dunking from impossible distances, making smooth reverse layups, and making highlight reel plays, remember the doctor who paved the way and did it with style and class.